Well, hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here at a park at just after 7 a.m. in the morning. Why would I do that? Well, because I'm really excited about this topic. Plus, I love the summer. And right now, we got a nice little gentle summer breeze going by. It's a beautiful morning, to quote the Rascals. So I'm going to do this video. And this video actually surprises me, the fact that I even made it, okay? Because for a long time now, people have been asking me, when are you going to make a video about your top Beatles songs? And it's an impossible thing to do when you're a Beatles fan like me. It can't be done, you know, all you diehards out there. You know what I'm saying. So I kept putting it off and putting it off. And I'm still putting it off because eventually what I want to do is do a top 50 or a top 30 maybe of my all-time favorite Beatles songs, okay? What made me do this was there's right now kind of a tag going around, and I hope you people out there watching this will participate, 10 top Beatles songs. And I believe it was started by Carson Tucker, so he's got a channel out there, and everybody's starting to do it. I noticed a lot of people in the YouTube community making videos about this. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Now, of course, before I get started, it's important to lay down some ground rules and explain a few things. As I say, it's impossible for me because the Beatles, they have over 200 songs. I love every one of them, some of them more than others, but I don't really hate any Beatles songs. So how in the world am I going to pick 10? Well, I got around this problem by deciding that what I would do is, instead of really just going for favorites, although all these 10 songs I'm going to give you are indeed all favorites of mine, of course, I'm going to go for the ones that I think, in a way, are the best. You know, these are like favorites, but they're also the best, and why they come together sometimes. Oh, excuse me, my paper almost blew away. Sometimes they come together, favorites and best. So I figured that's how I'd get around it. Now, I really want to get one thing straight right from the beginning that I feel bad to say, and that is that I do not have any George Harrison songs in here from the Beatles. Why? Because if I'm narrowing it down to 10 songs, there are so many great Lennon and McCartney masterpieces and songs I love that, although I love George Harrison too, and he did some great songwriting, I had to bump George because my 10 favorites or best songs here on my list would be Lennon and McCartney, really. All right, so that's an explanation for that. So let's get going here, okay? One other thing. Before I start, these 10 songs are in no particular order. You know, hey, give me a break, huh? You know, I mean, it's hard enough that I was able to actually come up with 10 best Beatles songs at all, much less have to rank them from 10 down to 1 or 1 to 10. Can't do it. But I will say one thing. The song that I've chosen for number 1 is my number 1 Beatles song. That much I'll give you. The number 1 is the number 1. So now, we're going to start with the other 9 are in any old order, okay? Number 10, from the Magical Mystery Tour album, I went with I Am The Walrus. Love I Am The Walrus. Classic John Lennon, gobbledygook, crazy imagery, John being cool, John being weird, John being John, everything that I love about John Lennon's bizarre stuff. I Am The Walrus at number 10. Number 9, you know I love the early Beatles. So, from this particular album, their first Please Please Me, I went with number 9, I Saw Her Standing There, the opening track. I should also mention that I'm not doing any cover songs here. That's another stipulation. Twist and Shout may, in some cases, go on a list like this, but not this time. I Saw Her Standing There, I put as the 9th song. Great rock and roll, the Beatles saying, here we are, a Chuck Berry kind of influenced feel, you know. Let's come in and rock. Love the opening, 1, 2, 3, 4, and going into the really raunchy arrangement. I love this song, I Saw Her Standing There. Number 9. For number 8, let's go back to Magical Mystery Tour for John Lennon's masterpiece, Strawberry Fields Forever. Kind of the same thing I said about I'm the Walrus, John being John, Very introspective, very confused, very uncertain about things, though, trying to figure things out. And it's the start, really, of psychedelia, isn't it? You know, the Strawberry Fields Forever era. You know, the 67, even though the Beatles recorded it in the late 66 and so forth, but starting out 67 with the colorful imagery. Strawberry Fields Forever is a masterpiece. John sings it beautifully. I love the effect, actually, of the kind of like slightly slowed down voice. You know, you can't say much about these songs. Now, here's a song that so far on all the lists that I've watched some people's videos already, nobody's put this song on their list. Well, actually, nobody, I should also say, nobody put I Saw Her Standing There on the list on it either. But this is a one that I'm surprised in a way for me to pick so highly, but I thought about all the albums, and, you know, with the Beatles in this list, I've discovered that I think this is a really good how should I say, a summary of their whole career. We've got early stuff, we've got late stuff, we've got, other than George Harrison not being here, we've got the best of Lennon and McCartney, from the weird to the soft, and here's the latter, here's the soft. Paul McCartney, from the Hard Day's Night album. I love the song, And I Love Her. And I Love Her, to me, is even more enjoyable than John Lennon's companion song. I'm getting eaten by bugs. That's the only bad thing about the summer here. The song And I Love Her, a beautiful ballad. You know, Paul's did a lot of ballads. Let's face it. And to me, I think his best ballad, or one of the best ballads, or one of the best ballads from the Beatles, is And I Love Her. I love George's guitar suggestion in there, you know, that he put in there that really carries the song. So there's a word for you, George. George came up with that guitar part. So there you go. George is mentioned here. I like And I Love Her even way more than If I Fell, which is John's song. So all you people that know I favor John, I favor Paul when it comes to And I Love Her or If I Fell. Okay, now number 6, this had to go on here. I know a certain viewer of mine is not going to like this, but I'm sorry. One of the greatest songs, and in some people's case, they say the greatest song the Beatles ever did was A Day in the Life, the classic masterpiece that closes off the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. Again, psychedelia, very otherworldly, coming out of another universe. John's voice sounded like it's coming from the heavens or beyond the grave, even, if you like. Just a very wonderful vocal by John. And then Paul comes along in the middle doing his Paul McCartney bit, which is a perfect realization to me of a dream, and kind of like a dream state, and then breaking the dream and coming back to reality and getting to work and then dreaming again. It's like you're in the middle of a dream and then it comes back to stark reality. Got to get to work, got to get the bus and all that, and then you're back into Never Never Land. So the magical touch that is A Day in the Life is there at my number 6 track. Number 5, I went with one of the Beatles' heaviest rocking songs that I really love, and I think it's particularly kind of appropriate in the way things are going in the world lately, fortunately or unfortunately, I would say. That is the song Revolution. And when I say Revolution, I'm talking about the fast version of Revolution, the single version of Revolution, not Revolution 1 from the White Album. No, I'm talking about the fast B-side to Hey Jude. I'm talking about Revolution, John's balls to the wall rocker. I prefer this version too, where he says, when you talk about destruction, don't you know that you can count me out? None of this nonsense about destruction. I don't believe in destruction to make your point. I like the fact that, you know, in this version he says, you can count me out if you're going to destroy things and, you know, hurt people or anything like that, or burn buildings and etc., etc. So, I love the version of Revolution. John, of course, sings it gut level, gut-wrenching vocal from John. The Beatles, crunchy guitar sounds, just really, really guttural. I always say this gives some street credits to the Beatles for people today. When you want to tell young people, hey, the Beatles were cool, you know, they didn't just do Love Me Do. They didn't just do I Want to Hold Your Hand. They did some raunchy rock and roll, too. Revolution. The reason I'm showing the Hey Jude album is because the Hey Jude album featured the Revolution single, and I prefer Revolution in the mono version. You know, so did John Lennon. He said he preferred the heaviness of the mono single, and he said that when they made it in stereo, kind of turned into a piece of ice cream. Although some of the stereo versions of Revolution, if you hear a good solid one, they're good too, but I prefer the mono. Revolution at number 5. Now we got number 4. Number 4, I got to go back to this album, and it's interesting. This has the most picks on mine, right? Penny Lane, Paul McCartney. Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields were a single, one of the greatest singles. I think in a lot of ways, Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane, maybe the greatest single the Beatles ever did. There's so many of them. Penny Lane, a beautiful, happy, upbeat, whimsical journey back to the town where they grew up, and reminiscing about good old days and the people in the town and the views in the town and everything that transpired as a youth in Penny Lane. So, just like Strawberry Fields Forever was kind of about John's youth too, because that was a place he used to visit. Penny Lane at number 4. Now we go to number 3. For number 3, I went with the Revolver album. And for me, the best track on the album, John Lennon's Tomorrow Never Knows. It's hard to say best track when there's so many greats here. I mean, George has Taxman, Paul has For No One, and Here, There, Everywhere. It's Eleanor Rigby. But anyway, Tomorrow Never Knows is my pick at number 3. I think it's pretty fair to say that this is the first time that the Beatles really started doing craziness and tape loops, courtesy of Paul McCartney's tape recorder. John sounding really like, again, bizarre, crazy, from another world, his voice distorted and everything, with the speaker going round and round to give his voice a kind of whirling, distant feel. Really love the song Tomorrow Never Knows. It's the start of things to come. It's like the album ends with the start of the psychedelic era to come. It's the introduction, if you will. Okay, number 2, I went with a classic. It's one of the most overplayed Beatles songs. It's hard when you make a list like this. How do you possibly include so many songs that you're so tired of? They're great songs, but you're so tired of them, right? This is a masterpiece. Let It Be. Title track, Paul McCartney, Let It Be. I don't know what to say about it. It's such a beautiful song. It's so powerful. Even though it's a tired song, I would say when it comes on the radio, most of the time I have to listen to it again, because Paul sings it great. And I always say that, in my opinion, Let It Be, the song, could be one of Paul McCartney's top 2 greatest songs ever. In my opinion, I'll tell you right now, I think the 2 greatest songs Paul ever wrote, and Paul's written hundreds of songs, right? So how do you pick the 2 greatest songs? Let It Be, and also Maybe I'm Amazed. And I think the reason I picked those 2 songs, I didn't really think about it when I choose them, but when you really try to analyze why would I pick those songs, I think because these are 2 times where Paul McCartney is actually kind of like looking inward and kind of like in a state of not being 100% bright, optimistic. He's kind of going through problems, troubles, times of trouble, right? And he's very vulnerable in these songs. I think too often Paul does just a lot of la-di-da, la-di-da, fluffy songs. And that's great because, hey, look, I'm in the mood today in a beautiful morning like this for one of those just fluffy songs. But I think those 2 stand out because of the reasons I said. Now, here it is. Out of all the songs that I mentioned, none of them were in an order. This is the number 1 song. When people ask me, what's your number 1 Beatles song, it may surprise a lot of people. This is my number 1 pick, best Beatles song. Is it the greatest song they ever wrote? Hell no. Is it the most complicated song they ever wrote? No. But it's my favorite, and I'll tell you why. It's the song She Loves You. She Loves You from, I made a point to show this, my favorite Beatles album, the United States Capitol album, the Beatles' second album, a good rocking album. Why did I pick She Loves You? How do you explain something like this that means so much to you? I picked it because when I was a child, my mother tells me that, I used to go around singing She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. when I was 3 years old. She Loves You was probably the first Beatles song I really liked and started singing as a kid. And to this day, anytime you happen to have the good fortune to catch the song She Loves You just popping on a radio station or something, it sounds incredibly exciting, energizing, upbeat, happy, fun. The Beatles are here. Beatlemania started. It sounds exciting every time. This record, I'm surprised when it first came out in the United States, it didn't do much. You know, it was later on that it came, because this is so different at the time, so different from anything that was out. And to me, it retains that level of energy and excitement from the opening drum roll. It gives me goosebumps just hearing the Beatles singing "She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah." It's everything the early Beatles are. It epitomizes Beatlemania, the whole feeling of, you know, early mop top Beatles. My favorite Beatles song, "She Loves You." This was a lot of fun, folks. Check out everybody else's videos. Thanks.